Welcome to the Livin'Sky Podcast, a show about raising connected, resilient kids in a world that often forgets what they need most. I'm Lena Livin'Sky, a pediatric speech-language pathologist, holistic feeding specialist, and a mom, here to help you understand your child's body, behavior, and biology in a whole new way. Each episode brings you simple, practical tools to support healthy eating, development, and family connection without the overwhelm. Thanks for listening. I'm so glad you're here. Let's dive in. Tori Starling is a holistic health and bioenergetics practitioner, documenting hope health coach, and founder of Simply Holistic Solutions. She supports moms of children with childhood apraxia of speech and autism spectrum disorder by addressing the root causes that make speech and feeding therapy more effective. Her approach looks at nutritional deficiencies, gut health, bioenergetics, nervous system foundations, and the total load that influences a child's ability to learn, grow, and thrive. Tori's journey began 14 years ago when her son healed from apraxia, eczema, and multiple food allergies. That experience led her into the world of natural health and ignited her passion for helping families understand what is really happening inside their child's body. Today, she combines holistic tools with the latest insights into circadian biology, bioenergetics, and nervous system support to help families make meaningful progress. Tori, welcome. I'm so happy to have you on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
So let's just kind of start with your story. Can you share your personal story and what led you into holistic health, especially as it relates to your son's healing?
So, my son is 17 now, and when he was 3 months old, he developed severe eczema. And then at 9 months old, he had his first reaction to food, which was eggs. And then when he turned 1, he started getting multiple ear infections. The eczema got much worse. He developed asthma. And he was on 4 rounds of antibiotics in a period of 8 months. And so everything just kept getting worse and worse. I was doing everything that the doctors were telling me to do. He was on 2 different eczema creams. He was on 2 different breathing treatments. And then when he was 2, I really felt like there must be a better way because he was not getting better and the treatments were just getting more extreme. Like, for example, one of the eczema creams had a black box cancer warning, and the doctor said, I feel like the benefits outweigh the risk. And that was just kind of like, what? What are you talking about? And then another thing was for the eczema, they wanted me to do bleach baths and then put the
Goodness.
steroid cream on him with saran wrap over that, and then warm pajamas and have him sleep like that for 3 days. And so there were different things that like really in my heart felt wrong to me. And so I decided there must be a better way. And so when he was 2, I took him to a naturopath and he did a clean diet. We discovered that orange juice was a big trigger for his eczema. And so took out orange juice, added a probiotic. He took a multivitamin, and that was really like pressing the reset button on his system. So the eczema got much better. It didn't go away completely and still flared, but it really did improve a lot. And the asthma went away completely. The ear infections went away completely. So he was definitely like trending in the right direction. So that gave me motivation to keep on that path. And then when he was 3, he still was not talking. And that's when he got diagnosed with childhood apraxia of speech. And so again, I did everything that I was told to do. He did private speech therapy 2 times a week. And I worked with him every day at home. I got homework from the speech therapist. And honestly, like between that 3 to 4 year period, he would make some progress, but not anything significant. Or maybe he would do well in speech therapy, but then forget everything the next day. And so around that same time, I started a blog called Jake's Journey with Apraxia. And my purpose was really just to share what was working for him, what was not working. I wanted to connect with other moms and, just so I didn't feel like I was going through that alone. And it was probably like 6 to 9 months into my blog, I had a research doctor reach out to me and she emailed me and really introduced me to the concept that, the kids with autism and apraxia are very sensitive. They have trouble detoxifying and really introduced me to like the total load concept. She gave me all of the testing that I needed to do, all of the possible root causes. And so at that point, I really had like a roadmap going forward. And at
Wow.
that same time, he was also regressing in speech therapy. And we had been doing the Kaufman cards, and he was doing Kaufman cards the first set. And our speech therapist said he's regressing. He's going to have to start back at the very beginning of Kaufman cards. And I just, after like 9 months of doing it, I couldn't wrap my brain around that, just starting
Mhm.
over. And so I decided at that point to make an appointment with an integrative MD. Went in right before his fourth birthday and did testing, discovered that he had a lot of nutritional deficiencies and he had a gluten and dairy sensitivity. And so at that point, right at his 4-year-old birthday, I started integrative care. And his plan was he took B vitamins. He took, and of course, it was like the methylated B12, methylated folate that we're all hearing so much about now. And he did CoQ10 for mitochondrial support. He did a probiotic and glutamine for gut health support.
Yeah.
He also took vitamin E. There's some research regarding vitamin E and speech.
Mhm.
So he took vitamin E as well. His diet was just, we kind of went like next level to clean up
Mhm.
his diet. And also, of course, went gluten and dairy free. And he, made sure he was getting plenty of protein each day, healthy fats. And we also did acupuncture. I
Mm.
wanted to address like the energetic component as well, since the energetic body powers the biological body. I wanted to, just kind of add that with the thought that we were attacking it from all angles with the thought that one thing would stick or a combination of all the things would work.
Wow.
And then also at that same time, I was fortunate enough to run into a perfect speech therapist for us, a perfect fit. And I had been wanting to do hand cues with him because I had been doing these flashcards, zoophonics. I don't know if you've heard of zoophonics.
Mhm. Mhm.
And he really loved those. He loved doing the hand cues for the different animal sounds, and he could get the words out by doing those movements.
Wow.
And so I sought out someone who was experienced in hand cues. She was super open to doing it. So we also started doing hand cues at that time. In 1 month's time, he started speaking much better and his overall demeanor just completely changed. He settled down. He was always kind of squirmy, and all of that just completely calmed down. In 3 months' time, his speech had significantly improved. And in a year's time, he tested out of apraxia.
A year. Wow.
Yeah. And really, I mean, technically, after like 6 to 9 months, our speech therapist was really taking like a wait and see
Mhm.
perspective because she didn't know, is he going to move out of apraxia and then move into something else, like another speech disorder? Is it officially gone? So we were really just taking like a wait and see approach.
Wow.
And so obviously going through that experience, it completely inspired me to just see how miraculous the human body is at healing if you give it the right inputs. And it was amazing to me that I witnessed his brain and his body just do a complete transformation.
Yeah.
And I also felt really fortunate that the research doctor had given me so much information. This was 14 years ago. It wasn't like it was today.
Exactly.
No one was talking about apraxia. Autism was in its infancy stages at that point.
Right.
Doctors really didn't know what was going on. It was a lot of moms helping other moms, anecdotal kind of things on what was working and what wasn't working. And so I really felt fortunate that I had been given that opportunity to have the roadmap to get out of everything. And so I decided to take classes in holistic health. And so I've just, over the past several years, I've just been taking different classes and kind of finding my way and figuring out where I belong in this space to best support moms.
Yeah. And wow, what a story. This is just amazing. And like you said, this happened like 14 years ago. So I think you were so lucky to be able to have these people come across your way. But at the same time, your intuition told you early on, like something's wrong. Like I cannot continue treating the eczema this way. And my son is not getting better. And even with the therapist, you were always kind of spot on thinking like, okay, this is not a good match because speech therapy can be very different across different providers, right? So finding the right match of what your child actually needs that aligns with your approach is just so key, and I think it can make such a profound difference.
For sure.
Yeah, and tell me, how is your son doing now? Like ever since then, when you guys, made all these changes to support his body, and he tested out of apraxia, have you ever had like any flare-ups or any symptoms come back? Like what did his journey going from that moment into today, what did that look like?
Well, he was able to get out of the apraxia before he entered kindergarten. He had a late birthday, which really did help us. His birthday is in September.
Mhm.
So basically, he started school and then immediately turned 6. So that was a positive because we gained a whole year of developmental there. So he was
Mhm.
able to start kindergarten in a neurotypical position. And then he went on to have no learning, no behavior, no focus, no speech issues. He had none of that. He's always made excellent grades. And the only thing I would say that has continued is he has remained having like a more sensitive system. And so, I still think that his body does not detoxify as well as an average person.
Mhm.
And so just knowing what I know, I'm able to like support him. Like if I see that he's getting a little off, like we have different things that we can do in order to
Mhm.
support him. So, I think that too is so key because, when your child is like 3 or 4 and they're not talking, like your focus is totally on, let's just get them talking. You're obviously not thinking about, well, what is it going to be like at 16 years old? You
Right,
don't
of
you don't
course.
think that far in advance. Like you're just in the moment.
Mhm.
And so I always like to bring that up just from like a zoomed out older mom perspective, that I don't think he's ever going to be like the college kid that's going to be able to go and live off pizza and beer every day.
Yes.
Perhaps he might get neuro, issues if he does that. So
Yes. And is he open to this lifestyle? Like, does he understand, like, this is what's helped me heal? Does he remember any of what happened to him
he
when he couldn't
doesn't
speak?
remember the apraxia.
Okay.
He does remember his food allergies because he actually didn't get out of the food allergies until he was 10. And so that was a whole other process, but he does remember a life of food allergies and having so many restrictions,
Mhm.
and he's open to it. It's all he's ever known. He's
Yeah.
done it since he was 2 years old,
Right.
and he
This is
himself
life.
has witnessed how his body changes, and I think that is just so key because whereas other people might, quote, "trust their doctor" or "trust so and so," he really trusts this process.
Yes.
He has seen how it helps him and fully believes in it.
This is just like giving me goosebumps because I think like everybody needs to know because we're still, I think the stage for natural healing and these beautiful success stories is getting bigger, but it's just still not big enough.
Right.
And so being able to talk about this and witness, how successful you have been in helping your son heal, like it's just amazing. It's just amazing. It's so possible. And I think even if you start later in life, of course, it's the earlier the better. It's always the earlier the better because the brain is developing and the body is developing. But even later in life, when you start, you can see such beautiful progress that I'm just so happy that this information is just getting out there and people like you are sharing their story and you're working with parents now. I'm just so happy. that this is
I
happening.
think too, I mean, we all want to try the path of least resistance, right? Like
Yeah.
we want to try the easiest thing and it just work immediately. So I
Yeah.
definitely feel like that was the path I tried to go down at first, but then when
Mhm.
that wasn't working,
Yeah.
then, I felt like I should try other things.
And, you always kind of listen to your gut too, and I think that's important as a mom. I feel like
For
as mothers,
sure.
we're so lucky to have this intuition to kind of guide us with our children. So it's beautiful we were able to listen and actually see these amazing results. Like, this is awesome.
For
Um,
sure.
yeah. So when you look at the rise in chronic symptoms and developmental delays in kids today, and these are so profound. Our kids are just getting sicker and sicker. The world is very toxic. But what are some like early patterns and signals that you wish parents recognize sooner in their children? Like, what are some kind of red flags that you have seen with clients? And what are some basic things you recommend to get started with on this healing journey? I'm a huge believer that light is one of the most powerful medicines for our kids and for us. That's why I love Bond Charge. Their blue light blocking glasses, red light therapy devices, and many other products are designed to support your circadian rhythm and help your family sleep and feel better naturally. In our modern world of screens and artificial light, these small shifts make a big difference. Calmer evenings, deep sleep, better focus, and happier moods. I use Bond Charge products every single day, and even my son has his own pair of blue light blocking glasses for evening story time. You can check out all their products at bondcharge.com and use code LENAL to save 15% off your purchase.
I think that is such a key and important point as we enter into this next level of healing with these children, where there's so much education and awareness out there now. And so now it really is so important to start reversing some of these things, preventing more of them so that the rates can start going down as opposed to going up. I really feel like we are definitely at that critical point where that has got to change.
Yes.
And I would say, just from my own personal experience, I think it's so important for parents to pay attention to the smaller things that conventional medicine often dismisses as normal. So things like eczema, asthma, ear infections, digestive issues, behavior issues, sleep problems, sensory issues. With babies and young children, of course, there's going to be bumps in the road. There are going to be things as their immune system and their digestive system regulates. There are going to be things that pop up, illnesses, issues, little rashes, things like that. But I think that, there's a difference in that versus something that is chronic and something that is extreme. And those are the things that really need to be looked at and really identified as root causes early on. So, for example, like with my son's eczema, he got eczema at 3 months old. So the protocol was he has eczema, we're putting steroid cream on him at 3 months old. If that were today and we had the technology that is available now and the resources, at that point, I would have given him a gut health test through Tiny Health, and they have a baby gut microbiome test. And I would have seen at that point, like, what is going on? Is it the formula that he is drinking? Does he need a certain type of probiotic that it's making this occur? And I genuinely do think if I would have done that when he was 3 months old. If that type of technology and intervention was available, I really think there would have been a good chance that we could have avoided every single thing that followed after that.
Hmm.
And
I
that's where
agree.
you really get into like true prevention,
Hmm.
truly reversing these diagnoses even to begin with.
Yeah. Absolutely. And you have mentioned like your son had a lot of nutritional deficiencies. So really looking specifically at the child to see what's going on, what are they missing? And we can sort of
Right.
figure out some of these things through symptoms. Like a lot of picky eaters, for example, have zinc deficiencies. So we can kind of assume that's happening. But I think specific information for every child is just so key, and being able to have access to this now, it's just amazing for so many parents.
Yes,
So I'm there with you, and I think the gut microbiome, we're just starting to understand it and to understand how important it is in our health. I'm also a fan of Tiny Health. I'm a fan of the GI map, because the GI map
mhm,
really shows you the pathogens that could be present, the opportunistic bacteria that you have in your gut that could be really, really causing a lot of issues, because sometimes we have to get rid of those too before even seeding the probiotics. But there's so many different ways of
right.
going around this, about this, that it is just so fascinating, and the fact that we're
And
able
different
to have
steps you
this.
have to take, like, you have to
Yes,
address one thing before sometimes before you automatically introduce one type of probiotic,
exactly. Exactly. So we're not just like blindly treating the child, hoping that something will stick,
right, with
but
random
actually
strains
with random
and all of
stuff.
that.
Right. Because I think probiotics are also very misunderstood. They're also very different. There's so many different strains. So sometimes having like a specific strain for something that's going on for a specific symptom, it's very different than having like a overall probiotic with random strains in it, and
Right.
it's just so fascinating. That's why I'm a big fan of Mary Ruddock's work. I don't know if you're familiar with her, but she does a lot of research on the microbiome and treating with very specific probiotic strains for specific symptoms. And it's just so fascinating to me, because I think that is the future of medicine. Instead of
Absolutely.
going with the antibiotic, which kind of bombs your whole system, you can find a specific probiotic for a specific issue. And if you give it correctly, it can really help you heal so much faster.
Yeah,
It's
that's
just,
what I'm doing right now with he healed from all of his food allergies from like age 10 to 12, but he still has a fish allergy. And
mhm,
so at this point I'm really going like the gut health route with him regarding the fish allergy. And like when he did the tiny health test, he had 0 bifido. And
yeah.
I actually found a research study that was like it was a small amount of people. It was like 10 or 20 people who had shellfish allergies, which shellfish is a different protein than
Hmm.
fin fish, but they gave them only bifido and all of the shellfish allergies improved.
Wow.
And so I think like right now we're kind of like prepping for the bifido stage. So that's super
Yeah.
exciting.
Oh my gosh, that's fascinating. I haven't seen that study. But
Mhm.
yeah, a very specific strain of a probiotic that's targeted for that specific need
Right.
versus just
And then there's
random
multiple
probiotics.
strains, of course, of bifido.
Right.
Like it's not
So
as
many.
simple as just
No, there's
bifido.
usually multiple of a particular bacteria, but yeah, that's fascinating. I love that. I feel like we could geek out about this for a while and talk about it.
Yes.
It's so cool. But you described the body as a puzzle with many interconnected pieces. So can you share how that lens helps you identify what's actually driving the child's challenges?
So let me start by saying I think the problem with conventional medicine is that when there is a problem, that problem is looked at on the surface level. So if you have ear infections, the ear is treated. If you have eczema, the skin is treated. If you have a speech issue, the mechanisms of speech are treated. And the problem with that is that it's like, you have a 500-piece puzzle in front of you and you're putting together a few pieces in the middle without looking at what the complete picture is. Now, do some children outgrow their issues, or is the medication able to move them to the next level where they are able to get out of it, or they are able to do just speech therapy and get out of speech therapy? Of course, whether that be from genetic predispositions or they detoxify well or their energy is well. So many factors go into that. But then there's also a group of kids that they are not able to get over their issues with that protocol. And so that is where root cause and really looking at the whole puzzle comes into play. Because often it is like my son, where one symptom leads to another, leads to another, leads to another, and then it all just keeps getting worse. And so, really, just looking at how the body as a whole is just completely connected Everything influences everything else. And again, it goes all back to root cause.
So when you start working with a new client, using this whole child approach, what does it look like? How do you usually get started? Do you always start with the gut, to looking at the gut? Is there something else that you like to look at? Is it very specific for a child? What is something that you like to do? These days when your child refuses everything you make and you just want them to have something nourishing, that's when I grab Signals. It's a real food meal replacement shake made with organ meats, minerals, and nutrients that support kids' biology, not just fill them up. It's rich in iron, zinc, and B vitamins, the building blocks for growth, focus, and strong immune systems. And it's great for the gut. And the best part? Nate calls it his ice cream shake. That's how delicious it is. And as a mom, it feels amazing to know he's getting what his body truly needs without the fight. You can learn more at feedyoursignals.com, and don't forget to use Lena10 at checkout for 10% off your purchase.
Well, I think I'm a little unique because I look at the entire picture.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I really take like a zoomed out, comprehensive look at the entire picture, the entire puzzle. And that means things like root causes, nutritional deficiencies, gut health, brain health, the energetic body, lowering total load, adding in things that are healthier and taking out things that are more inflammatory. Uh, the foundations of health are always key. And of course, if it's a child, with autism and speech issues or apraxia, then of course, speech therapy is also, included. I'm not a speech therapist, but just kind of like coaching parents through that, like, what are their options, where they find an apraxia specialist, what types of therapy is there for apraxia. But as far as like the day to day routine of those kids, for all children, foundations of health and total load are the same.
Yes.
So things like the basics, like clean eating, drinking water, filtered water with electrolytes, spending time outside, movement, getting a consistent sleep schedule, a consistent wake schedule, limiting screen time, clean products. So all of those basics. That looks the same for all children. For some kids, depending on what their symptom burden is, you can put those basics into place and you will see some of those symptoms fall off. So
Mhm.
maybe they started with 10 symptoms and you put the basics into place and now they're at 6 symptoms. At that point, you can really take like a targeted approach, and that is where testing comes into play, being really strategic with nutritional supplements, really strategic with gut health supplements, like we were discussing. And, at that point, then kids they usually take their supplements at breakfast. Sometimes they do that in the evenings before they go to bed. So, really, just, always looking at the whole child and not like at all the different phases, all the different stages, because you can
Yeah.
put in these supports and then it shifts things a bit. And then you have to kind of look at where you're at then and tweak it a bit. So, it's very like hands on. It's not just a blanketed protocol that all kids
Yeah.
do and all kids get better.
Yeah. And I think, and I love how you talked about the distinction between Western medicine versus this holistic approach, because I think that's also what happens a lot in Western medicine. It's like one protocol for everybody. Eczema, you get steroids, right? Because I've had psoriasis issues since I was 8. So that's something that I've dealt with. And then, of course, it was kind of the same thing. It's steroids, it's sometimes they'll offer you a shot of some kind of a concoction of steroids and medicine. And then you also get offered photolight therapy. And that's it. It's very cookie cutter. Like these are the only options. And then another thing that goes along with that is this idea that you're going to have it for the rest of your life, right? There is never this talk about you can heal. this is an autoimmune disease. So this is something that your body is attacking yourself. You're going to have this. There is no cure. So that's another thing that I love about this root cause approach is because you have it very specific to the individual, but also there is hope that you're going to heal. And how amazing is that? We need to hear that as we're going through an illness to know, like, hey, I can come out of this and feel great, not have
Right.
any of these symptoms. How important is that? And I feel like Western medicine is lacking that a lot as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I definitely want to ask you about bioenergetics. I'm not familiar with it. It's a new concept for a lot of parents. So how do you explain bioenergetic healing in a simple and practical way? And what does it look like when you're using it to support a child?
Okay, so bioenergetics is under the energy medicine umbrella. And the actual definition is the study, detection, and correction of energy. And so it's built on the premise that we have electromagnetic frequency in our body, we emit light, and we produce sound. And all of that is energy that controls the biochemical processes in the body. So, like Western medicine and even integrative medicine, it looks at the biochemical processes. So, you go in for a test, you're low on B12, you take B12. The bioenergetics really looks at the energy that is driving those biochemical processes. And so, while the traditional ways are so important, for sure, definitely, obviously, the biochemical process is addressing those issues are important. I also feel like it's important to address the energetic body as well. When my son went through his holistic apraxia process, I did acupuncture for him, which is another type of energy medicine. And I did that with a thought that we were attacking it from all angles. But when he actually recovered, I was not 100% sure how much of an impact the acupuncture did have on him. And so, as once he was 10, I started going through the process of desensitizing him from food allergies. And so, with that, I sought out a nutrition response practitioner, and she did muscle testing where she was able to determine if certain organs inside of his body were weak. And then she was also able to detect, like through muscle testing, which supplements, which homeopathic remedies would make his body stronger. And then she, of course, muscle tested like for different foods as well. And so through that process, I really went like the energy medicine route for the food allergies. And so that looked like homeopathic remedies. He did digestive enzymes, which is a basic gut support, and did a little bit of Reiki to calm down his nervous system, and also did EFT tapping.
I love
You know, I
EFT
don't know.
tapping.
Yeah, like, and you do it on different parts of your body to just overall calm down your nervous system. And also through that process, I also did Reiki and I was doing tapping as well, just because we are energetically connected to our children. And it really was like I wanted to, again, do everything that I could to see what would happen if we went all in.
Hmm.
And so his food, it was a process of about 2 years, but crumb by crumb, bite by bite, food by food, we added back in all the foods with the exception of fish. And he was able to be desensitized from his food allergies because of this energy medicine approach. So at that point, I was a believer in energy medicine. And I really fell in love with it because the integrative and gut health world, that can be stressful, that can be overwhelming, and energy medicine is the complete opposite of that. You
Hmm.
know, it's very calm, it's very all about like regulating your nervous system, and it just felt so much better to me. And so at that point, I'd started just taking different energy medicine classes. I started just looking to see what type of energy medicine supports I could add into my practice once I started. So I tried different things, over the years. My intent was always to find something that was economical, easy, because some of these children, they cannot speak or they have sensory issues.
Yeah.
They can't handle something like acupuncture,
Hmm.
right? There are
Right.
also location restraints. Some people live in rural United States where there are not options. Some people live in countries where there are not options. So I wanted it to be something that really there were no location restraints. And
Hmm.
then, of course, like something that worked, right? Something that was accurate and worked and people could see real progress with it. And so when I ran into Energy for Life bioenergetics, that was just the perfect fit for me. So once I purchased the software, then I tried it out with my family and friends for the next 2 years. And I have personally found it to be extremely accurate, the reports to be very accurate. You scan either by your voice, so you count to 10, and then it automatically generates a report. For children who are nonverbal or they can't count to 10, there's also a hand scanner that can be used, and that either connects by Bluetooth to your phone or a tablet, or you
Wow.
yeah, or you can connect it to your computer with just like a USB, USB-C cord.
Hmm.
And so that really makes it available to anyone, anywhere, and it's, super efficient, super easy. The report is generated immediately. There's also a new AI feature that they have rolled out where once you do the report, you can go in and type in, like, what all the child's symptoms are and say just kinda, like, put together a customized report based on all of these symptoms and all of these, these are the supplements that they're on, these are all the things they're doing, and just create a report where it's customized for the child. And then it works really well for me because I always have a lot of ideas. Just I immediately have ideas when I look at the report, and it's really kind of taken it to the next level because I can also put my questions in there and put my own thoughts in there and just have it like the whole puzzle kind of come together in a clearer way.
Wow. I love it. And it's so quick and accessible, which I think it's wonderful because sometimes the barrier to entry for some of the testing, like nutritional deficiencies, where you have to do a blood draw, like that's really hard for some kids. Like I know that would be really hard for me to do with my son. I did it once. It was traumatic for the whole family. And I don't really, that's not the first thing you want to do. So having something that's so simple and accessible to you where you can do it from home, that's just blows my mind. So much information from it.
Yeah, I really visualize it being a good tool for moms to use alongside the other supports that they're doing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's really I have 8 moms right now who are trying it out for free for me, whose children have apraxia. And so it's just been so fascinating just to see what the reports are showing, and all of the moms have shown very positive response saying, "Yes, this all makes sense." And then as far as, like, what you can do with those results, right? The report gives ideas for natural things to do at home. So there's that piece, like, that's basically the foundations of health, that sort of thing. And then, there are also infoceuticals, and infoceuticals are just water drops, and they're imprinted with light frequency.
Mhm.
So they do not taste like anything. It's a similar but different concept to homeopathy, but it's basically the frequency for whatever is out of balance, and the infoceuticals are just taken in water every morning.
And they're different ones for different symptoms, kind of like homeopathy?
Yeah, I mean,
Got
they're called easy things, like if liver, for example, showed up as needing energetic support, the bottle's called liver. So
got
it's
it.
yeah, it's nothing complicated or anything
Okay.
like that.
Wow, that is so fascinating. Wow.
It's so interesting. I love it. It's great. And I think too, just like how I felt like when I went through the food allergy process, I feel like that's why moms like it so much
Mhm.
because it feels good. Like it's a good support,
Yeah.
It's not stressful or anything like that.
Right. And you don't have to change your routine too much or stress
Right.
your child out by taking something that maybe doesn't taste good or it's hard for them to swallow. That's wonderful.
So my master plan with it is beginning in hopefully January, I'm going to open it up to everyone and I'm going to offer like a monthly subscription for it.
Mm-hmm.
So I want it to be super affordable and really kind of let it be a monthly subscription with a special needs focus, but also for the parents to be able to use it for their whole family if they want to do that. Like
Yeah.
basically use it exactly how I use it.
Mm-hmm.
So, if my family gets sick, the first thing I do is do a bioenergetic scan on them.
Got it. So even like from common cold symptoms or
Yeah.
anything like that. Oh,
It becomes a very, very good empowerment tool and
yeah.
education. Like each screen, if something's out of balance, each screen goes over everything, what it means and how it all works together with the rest of the body. And so
Yeah.
they have very good education with it as well.
Fantastic. Wow. It's interesting because I had a guest on yesterday actually that I recorded with, Jen McNerney, and she does something like that as well. She does muscle testing, she does energetics. I don't know if she uses the same kind of technology, but it's interesting how this conversation is coming back to me from like a kind of a bit of a different perspective, but a similar approach. Something that I love about this approach of holistic approach is just that it's also connected, right? And there's different approaches you can take, but it's also connected because once you start to work on one area of your body or one area of maybe detoxifying your home, you see these beautiful results just across the whole family. And I
Absolutely.
yeah, and I'm so fascinated about this bioenergetics. So thank you for explaining it. I thought it was a very good lesson in bioenergetics and I
Oh,
learned
good.
so much and I hope everybody else did as well. And I know you said you're starting the membership in January, so if anybody wanted to join or learn more about it, where can they find that information?
They could visit my website. It's simply holisticsolutions.com.
Mhm.
And then I'm on Instagram too, Tori, Tori _ simply holistic.
Okay.
I think
Fantastic.
I think in January I'm gonna try to center my post on just giving some real examples of what we're seeing and
Yeah.
on the reports just to kind of give moms a clearer idea for what to expect.
Yeah. And what are some success stories you have had with this approach of using bioenergetics and supporting the body in this way? For the 8 moms who are kind of trying it with you, have you seen any reports of improvement already?
I have not had anyone take infoceuticals yet, so
Okay,
I'm in the stage where they are just trying it out. We're doing the reports.
got
I'm
it.
meeting with them virtually on consults to go over everything. The new AI feature has just been rolled out like in the past couple of months. So I'm learning how
Wow.
to use that. They
Yeah.
understand that, they're very just receptive to, helping me
Yeah.
understand better and them learning and me learning at the same time. But like I said, I mean, I've used this for 2 years with my own family and my friends, and I have seen improvement with the infoceuticals in
Amazing.
those situations.
Okay.
And, like, right now, I'm actually using it alongside the gut health supports for my son's fish allergy.
Hmm. Wow.
So, I'm not, quote, doing bioenergetics for a fish allergy, but he just scans, once a month and sees what is out of balance. And then we're doing the infoceuticals with that.
Okay. Wow, I love it.
Yeah.
So is that kind of the frequency you recommend? And then maybe more if you're sick or having some symptoms or a flare up, or do you do like just like a monthly scan? Or is this the frequency for him because you're working on that fish allergy?
Right. Yeah. So
Okay.
every person is different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's very like bio individualized. I personally, just because I do what I do, I keep a few bottles of infoceuticals on hand, like common ones.
Mm-hmm.
So that way, if something little pops up, or if it's something that's more of like a repeated kind of thing, then you have your bottle there and you
Got
can
it.
just kind of add those in. I find that with me personally, I'm able to shift very quickly.
Wow.
So is my son. You're supposed to take the infoceuticals for 30 days. So
Mm-hmm.
that's another piece that, I'm kind of exploring with these kids is like a full adult dose would be 15 drops. But kids are, they're more sensitive. So do kids show results with one drop a day?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's what I need to find out. And there are other practitioners who are using this with children.
Wow.
Yeah.
This is so cool.
So it's just kind of like finding my own way with it. And yeah.
Yeah. And I love how you're thinking about that. Like dosing is so important, and some kids will perhaps do great with one drop, the very sensitive ones. And I think kids who have developmental disabilities often are sensitive. Like you said, they have this detoxification issues. So I wonder, like, I definitely want to know what you find and what are some
I'm
things
so
you've
excited about
seen.
it.
Yeah, this is so cool. So, for parents who feel overwhelmed or defeated, what is one simple foundational change that creates real momentum that you have found?
Well, it's hard to say because autism and apraxia, they are complex conditions.
Hmm.
Even though there are a lot of commonalities with these children, like there are also a lot of differences. But I would say the biggest thing would probably be to clean up their diet. And that looks like just whole food, protein, fats, real food, just anything where, their total load can be lowered and inflammation can be lowered. That just really does set the stage for such a good foundation for health.
Hmm.
You hear a lot about omega-3 and seafood in this community, really being something that makes a substantial difference. That was not a part of our story. My son was able to get out of the apraxia without omega-3 because he could not take it because of his fish allergy. So, but he did do other healthy fat supports.
Yeah.
But really, I mean, if a parent is truly feeling like defeated and overwhelmed, I think the best thing you can do to overcome that is to get testing done. I think it's really powerful for your child to have a symptom and then you be able to see on paper that something could potentially be causing that symptom. And here are the things you can do in order to improve that symptom.
Hmm.
I think that just, it's very empowering. It can definitely make a difference in mom's mentality and the overall situation.
And I think making small changes, even at home, just to start there, like you said, the diet or even just going a little bit less toxic makes a huge difference, right? Just
For
cleaning up the
sure.
environment or even just starting, like you said, starting with filtered water, good quality. Reverse osmosis filters are typically pretty good. And then adding in the electrolytes, all the minerals, it's just so key because you're providing really good hydration and the sun, just getting outside as much as you can. It's just so healing. Research shows that actually the sun shifts the microbiome more positively than food, which to me, it just blows my mind when I think about that, how
Light is
much we need
so
it.
fascinating.
It's so fascinating. Yeah. And we're still in the infancy stages of understanding of how much it affects our body, but it's all kind of created to give us what we need. And the further the world was created to give us what we need, and like the further we get away from this natural way of living, I think that's when we end up getting sicker. So, what would you say to a parent who feels stuck because therapy feels slow or stagnant? Should they keep going? Like, what would you tell them to do?
Well, in my personal journey, I learned early on that if something wasn't working or it didn't feel right or if things were getting worse, I felt like I was always wanting and willing to make changes in order to get to a different spot. I think that with certain kinds of therapy approaches, obviously, you need to give it things time for the child to be able to learn the material and all of that. But, like we were talking about earlier, if a certain speech therapist is not the right fit, don't be afraid to change.
Yes.
Don't be afraid to explore other options. And I feel like that is so important to just listen to your intuition and not be afraid to make a change if
Hmm.
something is not working.
100%. I was talking about this on a different episode as well, but I think sometimes when you go into a therapy appointment or you go into a doctor's office, we have this kind of respect of authority, right? This syndrome where we just feel like, okay, well, this is a doctor. They know what they're talking about. They're the therapist. They're the specialist, so they know what they're talking about. But if there is any part of you within your gut that tells you no, no, something's wrong. This doesn't feel right. It's okay to speak up. It's okay to make a change. Like, I think it's more important for you to be with the right provider versus having the fear of maybe, hurting someone's feelings because you're like, I don't want to work with you anymore. It's totally
Right.
okay because the most important thing is for you to get the right support for your child.
I think that too now has shifted a lot
Yeah.
and just in the past decade. I think people are speaking up more and
It's amazing.
I mean, I was never the type who felt like speaking up came naturally to me. I've
Mhm.
always been kind of like more
Same.
quiet in that way. And so, but I would really feel like I was pushed against a corner and like I had no other choice but to speak up kind of situations.
Yeah.
And so even though I was afraid, I did it anyway.
Yeah. I know the mama bear has to come out.
And
You have to.
people aren't always nice to you when you do that, but
It's true. It's true. Yes, but that's another, kind of indicator that this is not the right provider for you because the right provider would be like, "I
exactly.
understand," you know?
Absolutely. I think so.
And yeah, and they should refer you to the right professional who can help. That's really, what this is all about. Having a network of kind of like minded professionals, hopefully, where you can say, like, okay, well, this approach is not working. So maybe I should have you talk to Tori, right? Or I should have you talk to somebody else where
Right.
who is specializing in this.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, so I wanted to talk to you about these two powerful nonprofits that you're a part of, Documenting Hope and Apraxia Voice. So, can you share why this work matters to you and how these organizations are helping change the future for children with apraxia and other developmental challenges?
Well, I think that together we create change.
Hmm.
And, we are in a world and a society that often tells us, it can be pessimistic. It can tell us that there is no way out or this is the only way, this is the path that you follow. And that just has not been my experience at all. And now there are so many other paths that can be taken and so many other resources and both of these nonprofits are doing a fantastic job of providing education for the community, awareness for special needs families. Documenting Hope is going to be rolling out some testing options for families, and really just the hope, the empowerment, and the encouragement that they provide. I
Yes.
think that is just so important today. There's so many different situations out there, people who want to do this, but they can't afford it, or they live in a location that makes it not feasible for them to be able to do it, to be able to maybe seek out an integrative MD. They're just not in the location where that's available.
Yes.
And so these nonprofits are really like bridging that gap and they're really providing good resources for parents.
Yes.
And I also like it. Documenting Hope has been around for a while. Apraxia Voice is a newer nonprofit. But both of these organizations have a network of specialists, which I really like as a health coach and a health practitioner, where if someone happens to reach out to me and, like you were saying, I don't know the answer, I'm not sure what type of person, like I kind of know where they need to go, but I'm not 100% sure. I
Hmm.
can reach out to them. They can give me a link so the person can read more, what type of specialist the person needs to go to. Typically, the recommendation of an actual, a couple of recommendations for specialists. So really just being like a huge resource for the special needs
Yes.
community.
Yes. It is so needed too. And I feel like apraxia voice is so new, but it is so needed because I think apraxia in general, it doesn't get as much, and I don't want to say like a spotlight, but it's not talked about as much as autism is right now, right? And it is something that often goes hand in hand, but it's also a separate diagnosis. And I
Right.
think being able to look at it from this holistic perspective, like you have done, and to have these resources, it is just so needed for parents.
And they're doing research studies and
Right.
success stories. All of that is so important to get that
Hmm.
information out there so that every single mom and dad, they're not restarting, they're not recreating the wheel. They have protocols and experience and things that actually work laid out for them.
Absolutely. And I think that's so encouraging for parents too, because it can feel so lonely when you're on this journey going from a doctor to a doctor or from a practitioner to a practitioner who's unfortunately not a good fit. Then you're like, well, where do I start? And just having this resource of Documenting Hope and Apraxia Voice is just so powerful because you know that people who are involved in these organizations are typically going to point you in the right direction, hopefully.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, this is so exciting. And you introduced me to Apraxia Voice and Deanna, who is the founder, and I'm so happy to be a part of it now too. So I think we're gonna do some amazing things.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. So I like to ask this final question to everybody who's on the podcast. So if you could offer just one piece of wisdom to parents who just want to raise healthy kids and resilient kids in today's world, what would it be?
I would say for parents to and families to live more in alignment with nature
Hmm.
and to just let that be the lens for how you live your life. The original human blueprint has not changed. So we were designed to eat whole food, drink water, have sunlight during the day, and have darkness at night. And I think if people just kind of follow that blueprint, that it creates the perfect foundation for health.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. That's a mic drop moment right there. It's so simple.
It has really been overcomplicated.
It has been. There's just so much information overload out there. It's so confusing.
Mhm.
And taking it back to basics is usually the best start.
And a lot of times those basics just get overlooked.
They do. They do. And they help so much. It's just what our body needs. Because we
Mhm.
evolved like when electricity was invented, like maybe about 150 years ago. And our biology has not evolved to need it. What we need is what we have evolved over the years has been nature. That's how our biology has always thrived. So it's fascinating how much it can help.
100%.
But thank you so much for being here. I know you have already shared where everybody can find you. And I'm so excited for everybody to get to know your work and more about bioenergetics and just this total load theory and hopefully get to work with you. And I know you are coach. So do you work one-on-one with people? Do you do group coaching? What kind of coaching do you offer?
I've been on Instagram for the past 9 months, so that's given me enough time to kind of figure out, like, which direction I really wanna go, and I feel like my role is really, like, in the education and research space, and so I try to provide as much educational material as possible on holistic apraxia, holistic autism processes. And then I also have an ebook that's a starter guide that helps moms, who are just taking like the first steps with
Amazing.
integrating holistic apraxia into their lives. I also have a book that I published on Amazon, Voice of Truth, that's about my own journey with apraxia.
Hmm.
And I am also doing one-on-one health coach consulting. And this is for moms and dads who are already working with an integrative MD or a MAPS doctor or someone who is participating in a research study. So I hope to do work with Documenting Hope and Apraxia Voice on research studies and really just with the intent of getting as many success stories published as possible.
Oh my goodness, you're doing amazing work.
And of course, the bioenergetics.
Yes, let's not
Bioenergetics.
forget about the bioenergetics.
Yes,
This is great.
absolutely.
Yeah. So we will include all those links in the show notes. So if anybody wants to get the book or the ebook, I saw you post about it and I shared it in my stories because I was like, this is amazing. This is such a cool resource.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, of course. I think there's so much out there and just kind of like dialing in who the right practitioners are to provide this amazing healing information. It's so important. And I know you're one of the people that people need to check out. So I'm so happy to share. And we'll include that underneath this episode so anybody can grab it if they want to.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on, Tori. This was such an amazing episode. I learned so much and I know everybody else has as well. And it was just an honor to talk to you.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks so much for listening to the Livin'Sky Podcast. If this episode resonated, please leave a quick 5-star review or share it with another parent who'd love it too. It really helps more families find the support that they need. And don't forget to join my newsletter at linalivinsky.com for more tips and free guides. Sending a little sunshine to your kitchen today. See you next time.